My boss blames my panic attacks on the fact that I'm not straight. Here's what happened. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk on YouTube and hit the bell for notifications. This happened a few years back, and recently the whole ordeal gained some new ramifications, so just be advised it's a long tale. A little context. I'm a teacher with a degree in advertising, and have been involved with IT for the past 20-something years. Although I found my love for teaching just some 10 years ago, I passed through a lot of schools in the meantime, from the big ones to the smallest ones, and accumulated a bunch of experience, both in the classroom and behind the scenes, designing workbooks, video courses, learning platforms, and things like that. So I started thinking it was past the time to migrate to a management position. The opportunity came in a prestigious school of digital art, and I became its teaching manager, overseeing all the teachers and the intern learning routines. It was a hard but honest job, for a time. Soon it became obvious that my boss was not exactly what he tried to present to students and employees. He would display bursts of anger and antagonize the team, demanding impossible results and asking about tasks that he never assigned. But somehow it was our job to guess. One time during a meeting, he grabbed a big chair and pretended to throw it across the room. It was his idea of a joke. Nobody even flinched, because nobody doubted for a second he was capable of actually doing the deed. Needless to say, nobody laughed either. In my country, employers may hold employees' contracts up to 3 months, which means that for 90 days you have no job security, and may be fired at any moment without any consequence to the company, which my boss reminded everyone all the time, half joking, trying to keep everybody on their toes. He actually excused me from this treatment. He had this bad habit of treating the managers differently, and gave me constant praise for a good job till the day my temp contract ended, meaning I was then an actual employee, with full benefits and couldn't be fired without him paying me everything the law stated. So it really surprised me when he started the hostile treatment not 24 hours after my temporary contract ended and the full employment began. Gone were the praises, and in their place came screams, bad reviews, and more insane demands. We paid an outside company to do maintenance on the classroom PCs every week, but somehow bugs and crashes were now my fault. One time, he made me stay after hours on a Saturday after all students and staff had left, and prohibited me from going home before I had all the computers running smoothly. He asked me to find him a new seller, and I introduced a friend, making it clear that by no means I was asking for him to be hired. I was just making introductions, and if he liked the guy after they talked, it was his own decision and responsibility to hire him or not. A few weeks later, he gave me an earful for going for drinks with this friend of mine, saying that managers should stick with managers, and that I should mingle with him, not the staff, because apparently they were beneath us. I said this was absurd, reminding him that I knew this guy for years already, and that if he wanted to, he could join us for drinks anytime. It was not the response he expected. The abuse continued and actually intensified. One day I started to feel chest pains and my left arm was completely numb. While my friend called for an ambulance, I retreated to my boss's office, at the time being occupied by his fiancée, and calmly told her, "Don't mind me, I think I'm having a heart attack, so I'll just lay here for a few minutes so the students can't see me." Of course, she went nuts after this. The good news, it wasn't a heart attack, but an anxiety attack, and wasn't the last one. I was 36 at the time, and it was the first time I saw my mom cry since my dad passed, more than 20 years prior, from, of course, a heart attack. I decided enough was enough. So I gave my 30-day notice, citing health issues. I hadn't yet completed 6 months working there. I sat down with my boss, did not blame him in any way, but said the stress was making me worry about leaving my family too soon, and gave him every guarantee he needed that I would work through my entire notice period in order to complete every single project we started since my hiring. So I finished updating the courses, finished the development of our brand new e-learning platform, finished hiring the teachers for the next semester, and even shot videos to promote every single new course on the school's new menu. Less than a week left till my last day, he called me into his office to show the company's new career plans. "So, you see, that's what you're gonna earn in a few months. That is, if you stop being a sissy and just do your effing job. I could not believe it. After all the abuse, all the toxicity, I had tried to go the higher road and end everything on a good note, and he called my health issues being a sissy? I was done. I told him to just deduct the next few days from my final payment and left. Now, remember how I introduced him to a friend and he actually hired the guy? On my final days, I announced to my boss I would open my own school after leaving, but failed to mention that this other employee was my business partner. So when my friend asked himself for his 30-day notice, our boss was livid. He all but threw my friend out, telling him to never set foot there again and leave immediately. According to the law, that means he had to pay for that whole month, plus every remaining day he worked before, plus commissions. Adding to that my own last payment, which came with 6 months of benefits, we had more than enough to start our new venture. But that's not the point. He actually made us sign a sort of NDA with a bunch of illegal clauses, which made the whole contract invalid. It prevented us from revealing any company secrets during or after our time with them, at the risk of being fined around $6,000 at the time. However, no contract in the world can prevent one from reporting any illegal activities, at least in my country, which is why I wasn't worried one bit when I reported him and his school for having 50 plus PCs running on pirate versions of Windows, Office, the whole Adobe suite, Revit, Cinema 4D, 3ds Max, and lots of other very expensive software. Not long before this, a big and traditional chain of stores had gone bankrupt in our state for having to retroactively pay fines upon fines on Windows alone. So it's an understatement to say that the government was taking piracy pretty seriously at the time. It gets funnier when you realize that the reported person receives an email with the whole complaint, apart from the author of the report. This happens the minute it's filed so he can prepare his defense. His response wasn't at all unexpected. Some 5 minutes after our report, a similar email came in our inbox, reporting us for 30 unlicensed copies of Windows and many other programs. My business partner still talked to the finance manager on our old job, and knowing that our ex-boss would probably be right beside him, fuming and screaming, decided to send him a picture of our only classroom, with no computer in sight. We decided to specialize in classes about comic book making, which dispensed computers, and whenever we would host a class that demanded it, we would ask our students to bring their own. A few weeks later, I heard that the whole remaining staff had abandoned ship, leaving him with only an intern and a few teachers without permanent contracts. My former boss actually kept tabs on us, and learning that some of his teachers were contacting us to host special classes, started to blackmail them, threatening to terminate their contracts if they insisted on doing business with us, even though there was no exclusivity clause in their contracts. Some of them called the bluff, and he had to pay another buttload of money on breach of contracts alone. Time went by, and I hear the guy is counting his pennies and struggling to keep afloat. He used to open full classes every 6 months, occupying every date and time available. Now he can hardly fill a term, and started holding only night classes, and not even every day. Half the week he closes his doors, not having enough students nor the money to pay employees on these days. Before I left, he'd paid $40,000 on the architectural project alone to expand the business within a year. But now I hear he was considering closing his door and offering only online courses, even before the pandemic. Now, here's the recent developments. First of all, I need to say that my own school has closed its doors. Me and my friend were not a good fit, as business partners at least, and now we're not even friends. That's life. We cashed out and sold what could be sold, and each went on with our lives. I may eventually write about my petty revenge against this guy. You can say I hold many grudges, but this tale is not about him. Some months later, I found out our ex-boss was suing us, our school that is, which, as I mentioned, didn't even exist anymore. My now ex-friend's sister, who is also his lawyer, contacted me and told me about it. I couldn't find anything on public records, since the lawsuit was running on court-ordered sigil. I talked to my own lawyer and she said, if they didn't cite you directly, pretend you know nothing about the matter. And so I ignored the issue for a few years. During lockdown, the appointed official finally found me at home and served me. That also gave me access to my boss's claims, since I had 15 days to prepare my defense. My wife found me laughing out loud in front of the computer. His claims were absolutely ridiculous. He claimed I stole his courses and used as proof a print from our now offline site, side by side with his own, saying something along the lines of, "It becomes obvious that both schools have the same courses." However, he presented no explanation of the similarities beside the names, which weren't even the same. We had a segment of trainings under the umbrella graphic design, but no class with that specific name, for example, and no other classes on any of his main subjects. Also, most of our classes were in the topic of comic books, which he never worked with. He also called us cynical for daring to compete with him on the same market, even if it was my own previous experience in the learning sector that landed me the job in his firm in the first place. At one point, the document cited a statement from our site, where we said that we took our previous experiences as a way to learn from our mistakes and do differently, and called it a confession of plagiarism. I asked my lawyer to let me write my own defense, leaving to her the task to translate it to lawyerism. She actually copied and pasted my full statement, saying she couldn't have argued better. I put on paper all the repulsion I felt, cited all my experience with teaching, and rebuked every single one of his claims with facts and actual proof, attaching printed conversations, saved emails, and bringing attention to his own lack of proof. The judge tossed the case and made him pay all the legal fees, including my lawyers. He could have avoided this if he'd entered the lawsuit in small claims court, but since he wanted $30K from the NDA plus damages and sigil, he had it coming. Just another nail in this jerk's coffin. Wow, that was a grand, epic tale spanning quite a period of time. I guess let's break this down step by step. First of all, everything started out okay when you were a temp worker. I guess because as a temp you had another person to report to, he didn't feel like he was exactly your boss, and didn't feel like he could get away with treating you that way. But the fact that his professionalism went out the window less than 24 hours after you became his official employee is a massive red flag. I would think though that you still saw this treatment going on around you before this all happened, and maybe should have considered just not dealing with this guy to begin with. But hey, we all need a job and we all need to make money, so you stuck it out. But in the end, it didn't work out, and you actually ended up starting your own venture, which is really commendable of you. I'm sorry to hear that it didn't work out, but hey, like you said, that's life sometimes. At least you gave it a shot. Your former employer coming after you guys, though, is really just digging his own grave. Seems like he might have just been grasping at straws, trying to get a quick buck as everything was falling down around him. Too bad he didn't think this through, cause it really ended up backfiring in an epic way. This guy really dug his own grave, and it sounds like he got everything that he had coming to him. You can submit your own stories to be featured here on the channel. The story submission link is in the description below, and if you want to listen to some vibey music in the background, check out easymode, also linked below. And don't forget to subscribe. I had a guy over, and it turns out I overestimated his capacity to take a hint. I had a major crush on this guy from college who joined the same gym as me. I even read up and watched a few cricket matches to strike up conversation. I had my sources. Now, after 6 months of flirting, I was still not sure if he was interested in me or not. He'd make replies like, "Too bad nobody wants to date me," to comments like, "You'd make a great boyfriend." I mean, low self-esteem sucks, but this is just next level oblivious. When a woman is so obviously interested in you to the point where she enjoys hearing you ramble about stuff that flies right over her head, you have to be really dumb to not get it. So I decided enough was enough. There was this cricket league he really likes, but happens at an odd hour, standard time difference, and my parents happened to be going out for the night, so I called him and invited him to watch the match. The following conversation ensued. "Hey, you should bring protection." "What protection? Like a helmet?" "If my team wins, I do you. And if your team wins, you can do me." Okay, we'll see. 5 hours of cuddling, pizza, and cricket later. Okay, I guess you win. I'm all yours. We start making out. 15 minutes later. Okay, where's the protection? You brought one, right? No. But I asked you to bring one. I thought you were just kidding. You need to be clearer about your intentions. Are you kidding? Anyway, that's the story of my attempted first time with my now husband. Of course, I later learned it was due to low self-esteem after being overweight and not having a girlfriend through high school that he assumed any woman he met was not interested in him. I still like to watch and listen to him ramble about stuff I barely understand, because that's the cutest it's physically possible to get. I'm gonna leave this message for all the people bashing me or women in general for not being direct enough. Women are not this storehouse of infinite confidence and self-esteem. I wasted 6 months trying to get to know what kind of person he was, and if he was really interested in me. Women too fear rejection, and it's not that easy to just walk up to someone and ask him or her out. We're human too. You know, I really genuinely like this story. We have a nice happy ending and no jerks are involved along the way. Sure, he might have felt like a bit of a doofus, but he wasn't being a jerk by any means. I'm glad that our original poster came to understand why he was actually behaving the way it was. It has nothing to do with her. It's just a confidence issue. When that's become your norm, it can be hard to accept that anyone might actually be interested in you in that way. Thankfully, these two were adult enough to get over that awkward bump in the road and actually ended up being a really great fit for one another. We couldn't ask for a much better ending. New landlady at our local pub tries to enforce her rules on a friend of mine and gets more than she bargained for. This was the 70s in England. In those days, I was a biker. Not a Hell's Angel type, just enjoyed riding motorcycles along with a group of like-minded young men. In those days, it was mainly British-made bikes. Nortons, Triumphs, BSAs, etc. Bikers had a rather questionable reputation in those days, mainly due to the bad press the aforementioned Hells Angels got, and many pubs would not allow bikers at all. We used to frequent a few biker-friendly pubs in our area. One such pub recently changed management. We turned up on a hot summer's evening, and were told we would still be welcome but had to take our leathers off. One of my mates was wearing a very expensive one-piece racing leather, and after the rest of us had divested ourselves of various leather jackets and stuff, was still wearing it. He was standing at the bar to order a drink when the new landlady came over and told him he would not be served unless he removed his leather. He said, "Are you sure?" And she said yes. So he started to unzip and took it off and stood there butt naked while we all cheered. She got him to get dressed again pretty quickly, and he got his beer. You know, he could have just said something instead of putting it all out on display. But I guess that wouldn't make for as fun a story, would it? Thankfully, for the most part, everyone around seemed to enjoy the joke and went on with their night without any other issues. I'm sure she wasn't exactly happy about it, but probably saw how he couldn't pass up this opportunity. My brother's ex-girlfriend broke into my house to wait for him in bed. My brother, 17-year-old male, lives with me, 25-year-old female, and my husband, 26-year-old male, since both our parents passed away in an accident last February. He's a great kid, but losing our parents made him a quiet, sad young boy. I've tried to encourage him to attend therapy so he can work on his grief, but he's refused every single time, telling me that he's not ready yet. I get it. Everyone works at their own pace, and as long as he's not deliberately hurting himself, I won't pressure him. I try to be as involved in his life as I can be, without it being overwhelming. We both enjoy movie nights or binge-watch shows on the weekends, and he also helps my husband with his old car. Before our parents' passing, my brother had a girlfriend who was 16. She seemed like a good kid, too. But after the funeral, my brother decided that being in a relationship wasn't what he needed at that time, and broke up with her. Totally valid. However, she didn't take it so well, and was sure that my brother only needed some love to heal. Last month, she began to drop letters and gifts to our door, and my brother refused to open them every single time. She used to message and call him too, and I could see the distress on my brother's face. The worst thing happened last Friday. It was my brother's birthday, and my husband and I decided to take him out. When we got back, he went to his room, and as soon as he did, he came running down. Apparently, his ex had found her own way into my house, arranged his room with photos of him with her, their friends, and our family, put some balloons out, and was waiting for him with a cake. Mind you, this is creepy as heck. So while my husband entertained her, I called the police, and they took her for trespassing on private property. My brother's thankful, but my husband and the kids' parents are sure I'm overreacting, and that I should drop the charges because she's trying to do something nice. Update: I just talked to my brother and we agreed on getting a restraining order no matter what. He'll be switching rooms since he told me that he can't sleep there anymore. Our guest room is a bit smaller, but he says that he doesn't care. Whoa. Okay, I'm all for love makes us do some stupid things sometimes and that kids can get a little bit overwhelmed by these emotions. But there's no way she didn't look at this situation and see that this is all kinds of messed up. You know what I really blame is these teen drama movies and stuff. They make this stuff seem romantic and all that, but it's actually just creepy and downright illegal. You can't be breaking into someone else's house. No matter how you may think the other person feels, they're obligated to say and do whatever they want. You can't force the relationship if it's not something that they're consenting to. Trying to go above and beyond like this is only making everything so much worse. If there ever was a chance of them getting back together, you best believe it's not happening now. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. Put the playlist on in the background to finish listening to all the stories. Or if you want to listen to some vibey music in the background, check out easymode. If you like Am I the Jerk, give Am I the Genius a shot. Everything linked in the description.